That's James's stir fry. It's kale, a bunch of stuff actually, and some Great Northern beans, some yam. He's having some coffee cake for dessert. And I'm going to talk about Decline and Fall, which got top of the stack. Nevers Season 1 Part 1. And both of them, honestly, and there's an elephant size slab of meat that we got given to us today, which I'm very thankful for. And I'm going to talk about both of these movies, which are both worth watching, as far as I'm concerned. Or, well, one's a series, one's a TV series. And the other one's like a mini-series. So you neither one are really like both movies, I guess. But I'll talk about them further after I read my poem, which this one's quite a long one. This one's called Elephant Day. And it's a Silas story. I have most of my poems, I would say, are now Silas stories. Like, I have a lot of, maybe most of my poems are flower poems. I don't know. I have a lot of those too. But
hiking poem.
Yeah, because I've been. Maybe I should get that meat out of here. They'll be out here anyway. Fall flies. They're pests. Anyway, so here's Elephant Day, which I wrote October 9th, 2023. Within a month of working at the zoo, a girl I worked with asked if we could see the elephants. I'd only seen a few zoo critters, nearest where I had to be while working in the gardens every day. Flamingos, gibbons, and the peacocks who would wander near me, then just walk away and go and do whatever peacocks do. I hadn't known that it had been okay for me to tour the zoo while not on shift, so seeing elephants on Saturday was novel, like a truly special gift. What's more, it was a gift that I could share with Cy. And so we both showed up that day. When we arrived, my coworker was there, not viewing elephants, but in to play with them beside the keepers who were there.
Yikes.
They saw us and then called us in there too. They introduced Kamala, who would share the stage and show us things that she could do. A keeper gave commands and she complied. She truly was magnificent to see. A keeper asked, "Who wants to have a ride?" A voice that seemed like mine called out, "Oh, me!" I don't know what had made me want a ride, to take the offered opportunity. Perhaps it was young Rani there beside me who kept touching me excitedly. She was Kamala's baby, but was strong and hadn't learnt to touch men gently yet. Each time that Rani's trunk had come along beside me, it would pretty nearly set me down. So it was fear, quite possibly. Kamala might have seemed a good escape from Rani, who seemed far too fond of me.
So how big was Rani? Like, like an SUV or something like that?
No, not quite that big. But I mean, she wasn't full grown or anything. Like she was just a young girl.
Like some of those Mini Coopers or whatever. Those little English
She was
cars.
strong.
I know.
So strong. Anyway.
People don't understand how strong their trunks are.
Oh, they're amazing. Stronger than my whole body.
Oh, exactly.
So an elephant's a massive boulder shape. I climbed Kamala easily enough since she was laying down there next to me. But staying on I soon found may be tough. When riding bareback, one must tuck each knee behind the elephant's gigantic ears. There's nothing to hang on to while you're there. It's not a place for one to conquer fears of elephants while helpless in their care. My coworker took photographs that day of me up on Kamala, which she shared. I looked afraid, but I would have to say excited too. I'm glad that woman cared to take those photos, which she let me see. I'd left my camera down with Silas, who had failed to take a photograph of me. I had some fun, then Silas had some too. A keeper said, "It's big time bath time now. Who wants to wash the elephants with me?" At first, I didn't know if they'd allow him to partake in bath time, but soon he had hold of a big hose to wash the lot of them from in behind their cage bars then. They loved the hose. Then Silas even got to pet their trunks, which petted Cy, again, while Silas showered them in turn. Just Rani and Kamala touched Cy though. Old Sworna tried, but sadly we would learn she broke a keeper's arm some time ago, and though she craved men's contact every day, she still reached out as people wandered by, she'd never get to touch them. Anyway,
well, you make a mistake.
old Swarna was preferred by me and Cy. The lonely underdog, they're forced to see Kamala with her tiny future queen. Within their culture, Swarna couldn't be a queen, just Rani, once Kamala had been replaced, and that's why Swarna acted out, they said. I saw the bars and understood while Rani and Kamali romped about as starlets on their stage, life wasn't good for Swarna, or the bull within their cage. The bull, though, had a giant ball and chain to toss about to try to quell his rage, while Swarna reached to be ignored again. For each their cage was just a prison cell. Poor Swarna was imprisoned there and shunned. For Swarna, her existence there was hell. I guess much like the others there, she sunned herself and got to stare up at the sky. She got to shower off and got to meet all sorts of strangers as they happened by. And she had many tasty things to eat. So though she lived there lonely, Swarna had good things she could look forward to each day, and so maybe Swarna's life was not all bad. I'm glad that Cy and I both got to play with Rani and Kamala at the zoo. Perhaps old Swarna liked our far hellos. Perhaps the bull liked visiting us too. He didn't seem to, but one never knows. So that's my Elephant Day story. It was awesome. That was the best time at the zoo. It was so good. And yeah, very unexpected. I didn't go there expecting I was going to get to ride an elephant. That was something.
I feel sorry for Swarna, but only so far.
Well, I looked up, I wanted to make sure I was spelling her name correctly, and I don't know if I did, but I remembered their names perfectly. And Rani's name is actually Maharani, but everyone called her Rani.
Well, that would basically be Empress.
Yeah.
That would be big queen. Right?
Yeah. So anyway, she's big now. I saw pictures, of course, right? Yeah, she was just a little girl back then, but she's just as big as her mom and Swarna. They had a picture of them. They were all in a row, their three heads, and just standing there together. And I guess it was a news story. I had looked into it online, and in 2014 they were loaned to the Smithsonian for a while. And they worked out, they got shipped there, and they were fine. So I thought, oh, that's great, you know, and it was like seeing old friends or family. You know, I miss seeing the zoo critters that I knew. They're good people. So anyway, that's that. I hope you liked my story, Elephant Day. And I worked on that other one. I had read to you last time. It could have been $2,000 though, and I added 50% more to it and changed a few things, and it's much better now. So one day you might get to read it. I'm not going to read it again though. Not really.
So the little bit about Swarna should be a lesson to people about animals, wild, or these would really be domesticated. They aren't teddy bears, or they're...
Well, I mean, elephants are so huge, and even if they just, like imagine sometimes people lose their temper and they just wave their arm or whatever. Well, if she waves her trunk, somebody goes flying, right?
So
like
I saw, it's kind of like reality TV. They're showing bad things that happen with people and wild animals. And this was maybe the scariest one. There was this keeper of sorts taking care of this. I think it was basically a full-grown elephant. Maybe a little young, maybe a little immature. Didn't like what the keeper was doing or saying or whatever. I think there is sound, but you can't really, it's way back. And you tend to think of trunks as being like floppy noses.
Flaccid, yeah, something, yeah.
Anyway, picks this keeper up, or attendant, and starts swatting the keeper against the ground, as I recall. And the keeper just looks like a rag doll. Yeah. Rag doll. It's like it has no muscles at all. Whap, whap. And I think the thing had lost, the elephant had lost its temper so bad that keeper was going to be dead. But someone else, off camera, calls the elephant. The elephant looks like a kid who's had its hand caught in a cookie jar, and it goes trotting up to where this person is called.
I shouldn't laugh because that's terrible.
I mean, I think they were saying like the person was in the hospital.
Yeah, that's
and,
terrible.
Like, near-death experience, all this sort of stuff. But it is funny.
I can picture, the elephant just walking.
Well, it kind of,
no,
it doesn't
I was
walk.
caught.
It trots.
Yeah.
It trots off, like, whoop.
I was caught being very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
But anyway, it was a great day, Elephant Day, and had I worn more sensible clothing and stuff like that, like I didn't know. I thought I was looking at the elephants. I didn't know I was going to get to actually interact with the elephants, right? But when Silas washed with the hose, the keeper, one of them offered, "Do you want to scrub?" And they had these big giant, brooms, really,
brooms.
for scrubbing the elephants and
blue, you were saying? No,
I don't know.
They weren't blue? Okay.
I don't know what
color. Oh, you were
they
explaining what they were like.
Yeah, we have a blue
push
one.
broom.
I was just saying like our blue broom.
Okay, there we go.
But I don't remember what they were. But
it's funny how detailed.
But that was so long ago. Like that was, 30 years ago almost, wasn't it?
Elephants live a long time.
Yeah, they do.
That's why they say elephants never forget.
Well,
because it's partly because they never forget, but partly because they live so long.
They live so long. But so the one keeper and there were no takers on wanting to scrub them off with the broom. And honestly, like now, if I'd be like, me, I want to scrub, but then I was just thinking, I'm gonna get all wet and maybe squished. Or whatever, or I'm gonna get elephant poop on me or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking, but I wasn't wanting to do it.
No.
Maybe I was just thinking, oh, you know what, the ride was well enough. That was enough for me. I don't know what I was thinking, but now I'd be like, oh yes, please let me scrub the elephant. It's interesting. And the keepers, they're really nice, I don't know if I disliked any of the keepers. They were all really good people there. They really loved their animals that they kept.
If I were operating a zoo and we were responsible for hiring, I wouldn't want to hire a freak. Especially elephants, they could end up dead.
Yeah, they love the animals. And like the one guy, he whispered to me, he's like, if you really want to befriend the elephants when you come by, bring halls. And he even said there's a specific kind, I can't remember which one they preferred, but they love it. Apparently they love the feel of
lozenges?
Yeah, they love halls.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, because I don't know if you can now, but I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But you would see ice cream cones in with the gorillas and stuff. Honestly, you weren't supposed to feed the animals, but people did all the time. And you could reach out and you could touch the elephants there. So I don't know if you can now though. But they could reach you and they could take the halls, and they were very thankful for them. Anyway, decline and fall. So this one, I looked at the cover and I'm like, oh, look at that, David Suchet. So not as Perot and not at all the same character.
Wow, he looks very different.
Yeah, he's playing a very different person here, and
that's good. Very impressive.
There's a few faces that I recognized watching this show. Now let's see if I can find a date on this thing. Oh, I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? Anyway, 2017, so a little bit ago. And it's
this movie
comic.
Was worth it.
Well, it's set in parts, so it fills out the discs. 3 episodes, 182 minutes long, it says. And
it's about 3 hours.
Yeah, it was very, very entertaining, funny, and not so believable. Who cares? Some dark humor.
It's based on Evelyn Waugh. It's supposed to be one of the big...
is that where this is from? There you go.
I think that's the Evelyn Waugh thing I've read, and that should be an indication. I know I've read Ulysses.
Yeah.
I know I've read Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah,
I know I've read Portrait of the Artist as a young man. And I was recently reading a listing of the so-called modernist novelists in English. Well, uh, um, writers. So it included T.S. Eliot. And Evelyn Waugh was at the end of the list. Of course, they had Virginia Woolf right at the beginning. It's a woman writing the thing. And Virginia Woolf has got an inflated reputation. I almost said revolution. But she's pretty good. But I think most people would say, well, better than Jing. Yeah, not even in the same ballpark. Wake up. Anyway, I mean, she basically didn't go to school. What do you expect? Yeah. She did read a lot. She was lazy. I don't think she did a stitch of work in her life. Oh, she had her writing. So do I. So does Pauline. Well, we've done work. She was a spoiled, rich kid. Okay.
So, The Nevers, Season 1, Part 1. This is from 2021, and I'm going to look for the next part. This is a Joss Whedon production, and he did a great job with this. It says it's a sci-fi epic. At first, when I'm watching this, like it says August 1896, Victorian London, and I'm like, you know me watching period pieces. I like this.
Is this an English one?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It seems like it must be American, but
no.
Well,
the English kind of do their period pieces like the Americans used to do Western. You know, it's like, and you go, why can't you give it up?
Like the Acorn TV. Well, this one's British.
Yeah.
But this one, I
just
think
had the
it's
look
probably, you know, it's made to be set in. But I imagine this is, considering that this is a Joss Whedon thing, I think it's a Hollywood thing, right?
It just looks Hollywood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just glanced over it and I was thinking, that doesn't look, it looks quite a bit different, even though it's supposed to be in the Victorian era, even earlier than this. This looks as though it's set in the 20s or something.
Sure. So, anyway, you're watching this and it's, you know, 1896, sure, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you get to, there's 2 discs in here, and you get to the second disc about... You've watched 2 hours of the second disc, and all of a sudden it's futuristic sci-fi stuff, and you're like, what in the world is going on? Did I zone out and put on a different disc, or like, what happened here, you know? And then, so 20 minutes after that, you're back to Victorian, and so it's, you figure out, oh, this, it brings you back to where you started on the first disc, right? You know, but now you have this insight as to where this is coming from. And so
the futuristic part, is that how they work the black guy in there? The African, no, it wouldn't be African, English American. No, the African English. I don't know what you said. Oh, they didn't work him in that way. You know, folks, if you want to do that, if you want to look at England and its effects on Africans, go to Africa. You know, Uganda, Rhodesia, South Africa. You know, don't fake things up. I presume this is supposed to be set in England.
Well, I did have a bit of a problem with that. That wasn't really believable, having those characters. But whatever, they're doing what they have to do to, I mean, this is sci-fi.
Yeah.
So whatever. You know, it's not exactly Victorian London then. But as they present these characters before they are touched, it doesn't make sense. So once they're touched, and then they start messing with the future, I guess, really, from their perspective, from 1896 Victorian London, then you can accept that. But at that point, when they're before they're touched, it doesn't make sense, these characters. So anyway, so there's that. But for 20 minutes there, you feel lost from 2 hours into the second, the second disc, and then 20 minutes after, you know. you're like, what in the world is going on? What is this, you know? And then once that's over, though, you're like, oh yeah, I want to see what's going to happen. You know, it really draws you in. Once you're connected, in 2 hours and 20 minutes, the scene that starts the whole season is repeated, but you see it in a different light. It suddenly seems to make more sense and whatever, right? So yeah, I look forward to seeing the second season of this. There might even almost be a third ready for me to watch by now. So that's really all I have to say.
You think we might have a little time?
Oh, I don't know. I'll give it a look-see. You have 10 minutes.
There we go. So over the last 24 hours or so, Hamas has attacked Israel, terrorist attacks, of course. Well, some of you think they're responding to something.
Be quiet, honey. I'm not going to like that.
What they want is it's Muslim boilerplate. Muslims are not supposed to give up any territory they've ever controlled. Check it out. I don't care. But they're not supposed to. In other words, you heard Osama bin Laden crying about the tragedy of Andalusia in one of his little broadcasts. Muslims are supposed to control almost all of Spain because at one point in time they did. And they think they have a legitimate claim to any territory they've ever controlled. Yeah? Which is almost all of Spain. Check it out.
There.
Or don't.
Just sit there.
I don't care.
Let's see if I
You can go around telling lies to yourself and to other people. I don't care. Which means, incidentally, the Ottoman Empire used to control all the way up to, well, they didn't quite control, but they made it 2 different times in the fairly recent past to the gates of the capital of Austria, Vienna. Oh. Understand. Doesn't matter what they say to you. Doesn't matter what they have Al Jazeera saying and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't matter what they have their apologists like Sven Robinson and who's that scumbag Jeremy Corbyn, former head of the Labour Party. At least I hope he's a former head. It doesn't matter what they say to those flunkies. Those flunkies, people like Sven Robinson, a lot of them are going around, towing the Communist Party line. We're pacifists. But you guys better get out of the way of the communists. Because they're right on dudes. Yeah. Kind of like the Pete Seeger party line. I'm a pacifist. Of course, I was a Stalinist in World War II, but I'm just doing what those guys tell me to do. I don't want you to know that. Anyway. Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn, or whatever his first name is, Jumpin' Jack Flash Corbyn.
Stay there.
Was saying, our friends in Hamas, not that long ago. I think, well, within 10 years ago. Our friends in Hamas. Yeah, I know they're your friends. And I know the kind of friends you had during the Cold War, you scumbag commie. Speaking of commies, the Alberta Federation of Labour, I believe, and CUPE, Canadian Union of Public Employees, that used to be my union, have come out in condemning Israel, apparently, and supporting Hamas. I've cut off all ties with you scumbags. Israel has a right, as does Armenia, and a variety of different persecuted, the Yazidis, persecuted nations, even ones that are persecuted by their fellow Muslims, like the Kurds, have a right to have a nation of their own. And what I mean by that is not having terrorists in their midst, or even the threat of terrorists in their midst. They have a right. Israel has a right, and it's not one that's bought by victimhood at the expense of the Nazis. Muhammad killed in one day a whole Jewish tribe. That's a little after 600 AD.
Honey,
Okay? He killed off a whole Jewish tribe, and it used to be Muslims were going around, all right, let's draw pictures of this. Let's draw pictures of these, all the males of this tribe getting beheaded. I believe it's in a square in Medina. Right on! Now they're kind of, right on. 600 to 900 Jewish men killed. Apparently all the adult males. When you do that nowadays, we call it genocide. We won't call it that because it's politically incorrect. I don't care what you call it. I know what it is. I know what it is. And you flunky apologists should know what it is. But you don't. Your moral compass is so screwed up. South is north and north is south. $600 to 900 men killed in the space apparently of less than 24 hours. Beheaded, I think it was in the main square of Medina. That holy, holy, holy sight. Marred with the blood of real martyrs. Real martyrs. Are you listening, you flunkies? Who think martyrs are the way they were defined by Muhammad? A martyr doesn't go out killing people and dying in the cause. A martyr dies without fighting. You guys have made, over the space of 1,400 years almost exactly, maybe a little more, way too many real martyrs. And I'm getting tired of it. Absolutely tired of it. You know, my understanding of the Hague Conventions is if you're attacked one way, and that includes terror, if you signed up to the Hague Conventions and the other ones, Geneva Conventions, then you're entitled to respond in kind. That isn't respond. Respond in kind. When the Jews are attacked with terror, as far as I'm concerned, they have the right to respond in kind. Now, I don't know what the laws when it comes to proportional responses are, but I know what they should be morally. When you keep on getting attacked by terror, what you have to do is like what happened with the Nazis. Wipe them out. The Jews should not have to go through this. They've been going through it even before Muhammad. And since Muhammad, it has been awful. Read a huge book called The Legacy of Muslim Anti-Semitism. And then reread it. And reread it. And commit the passages to memory. It's an absolutely shameful annal of disgusting, despicable behavior.